The airplane cabin buzzed with the low hum of engines as Camille Brooks sat by the window, her laptop open and glowing against her face. She was 35 years old, and today was supposed to be the biggest day of her career. She had spent months preparing for a presentation that could secure her company a deal worth millions. If it went well, her future would finally feel safe, for her and for her 10-year-old daughter, Maya. She checked the time. Just a few more hours until landing. She adjusted her blazer, brushed a strand of hair from her face, and scrolled through her notes one last time. Her heart raced with both nerves and excitement. For years she had worked harder than anyone else in her office, staying late, missing family dinners, skipping weekends. It was all for this moment. The flight attendant's voice came over the speaker, reminding passengers to switch their phones to airplane mode. Camille picked up her phone to shut it down. That was when she saw it, an email notification at the top of her screen. She froze. The subject line read, "Termination notice." Her breath caught in her throat. She tapped it open, her hands trembling. The words blurred in front of her eyes. Effective immediately, your employment with Hartwell & Company is terminated. You are no longer authorized to represent the company in any capacity. Camille felt the air drain from her lungs. Terminated? Now. On the very day she was about to close the deal of her life? She blinked, hoping it was some kind of mistake, maybe even a cruel prank. But no, the email carried the official HR signature. Her mind spun as she stared at the screen, the plane already taxiing down the runway. She couldn't call anyone. She couldn't step out. She was trapped 35,000 feet in the air with her entire career collapsing around her. Her laptop still displayed her polished presentation slides, charts she had perfected over sleepless nights. They no longer mattered. Her future, the deal, the recognition, gone with one cold email. She swallowed hard and tried to keep her expression steady as the man in the next seat adjusted his headphones, oblivious to her world shattering beside him. She bit down on her lip until she tasted blood, refusing to let the tears fall. But behind the shock, a sharp question cut through her chest. Why now? Why like this? Someone wanted her out. She could feel it in her gut. And she already had a name in her mind. Jordan, her own colleague. The man she had trained, the one she had trusted. As the plane lifted into the sky, Camille sat stiff in her seat, holding her phone like a weapon that had just been used against her. At 35,000 feet, with no control and nowhere to run, she realized her fight for survival had just begun. Camille Brooks was the kind of woman people rarely expected much from when she was younger. She grew up in a small, working-class neighborhood where most people believed life had limits you shouldn't try to break. Her father worked long shifts at a factory before he passed away too early, and her mother worked as a cashier in a grocery store. Camille was often told to be realistic, to aim for something safe, something ordinary. But even as a teenager, she dreamed bigger. She had always been underestimated. Teachers would look at her and say she was hardworking but not the smartest in the room. Relatives whispered that she was too stubborn, that she needed to stop acting like she could change the world. Yet those words only pushed her harder. She studied late, she applied for internships no one thought she'd get, and she learned how to outwork everyone around her. By the time she was 35, she had done something almost no one from her block had managed. She climbed into the world of corporate business, a world where most of the decision-makers were men in sharp suits. She had to fight for every promotion, every bit of recognition, every time she spoke in a boardroom and someone tried to talk over her. She had to learn how to keep her voice steady even when she was burning inside with frustration. But life outside of work was not easy. She was a single mother, raising her 10-year-old daughter, Maya, on her own. Maya's father, Chris, had walked out years ago when their marriage cracked under the weight of bills and argument. He said he needed space, but really, he just didn't want the responsibility. For years, Camille tried to hold both worlds together, being a mother and being a provider. She woke up early to make sure Maya had breakfast before school, then worked long hours at the office, often missing bedtime stories. There were nights when she sat alone at her desk, staring at spreadsheets, thinking about whether Maya would ever truly understand why her mother wasn't home. Camille's family didn't make things easier. Her brother, David, often accused her of being too focused on career. "You act like money is everything," he once told her during a family dinner. "You've forgotten how to be human." His words cut deep, but she brushed them off, knowing he never understood the pressure she carried. Her mother, Rosa, loved her but had her own sharp opinions. "You're always working, Camille," she said again and again. "One day you'll look up and realize you missed your life." Camille wanted to argue back. "I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for Maya," but she rarely said it aloud. Despite the criticism, Camille kept pushing forward. She believed the sacrifices would pay off. The deal she was preparing for before everything fell apart was supposed to change her life. If it went through, she would not only secure millions for her company, but also prove herself as a top executive. More than that, the success could give her the security she had dreamed of: private school for Maya, a chance to pay off debts, maybe even buying a home instead of renting. She had spent months working on it. Early mornings, late nights, endless calls. She missed family birthdays and school events. At times she felt guilty when she saw Maya's face fall after she said, "Sorry, baby, I can't make it tonight." But she told herself it was temporary. One big win, and things would finally change. Yet, underneath her strength, there was always a fragile side of Camille that few people saw. When the house was quiet, when Maya was asleep, she often lay awake wondering if she was making the right choices. She carried the fear that no matter how hard she worked, it could all disappear in a moment. And on that plane, when she saw the email ending her career, that fear became real. For Camille, the stakes had never been higher. This wasn't just about losing a job. It was about losing years of sacrifice, the chance to give Maya a better future, and the only thing that had given her a sense of worth in a world that always doubted her. Now everything she fought for was on the line, and she had no idea how she would pick up the pieces. The plane had been in the air for a couple of hours. Camille sat stiff in her seat, the glow of her laptop screen shining on her tired face. She hadn't been able to close it since reading the email. The words termination notice echoed in her mind over and over. She tried to breathe, tried to calm her racing heart, but her chest felt heavy, like someone was pressing down on it. She turned off the laptop and stared out the window at the endless stretch of clouds. She kept asking herself, why now? Who did this? The answer kept circling back to the same name, Jordan. Jordan Miller, her colleague, the man she had once taken under her wing when he joined the company fresh out of graduate school. She remembered staying late with him, explaining numbers he couldn't make sense of, helping him polish presentations. She had believed in him, defended him when others said he was too inexperienced. He had been like a younger brother at work. Her phone buzzed suddenly, making her flinch. She had forgotten it was still on airplane Wi-Fi. A new message appeared on the screen, sent through the office chat app by her friend, Alicia. Camille's eyes widened as she read, "Jordan is presenting your proposal to the board right now." Her stomach dropped. She blinked, reading it again, her hands shaking. Your proposal. He hadn't even changed it. The deal she had spent months building, the one she was supposed to present, was being stolen right out from under her while she was stuck in a metal tube thousands of feet above the ground. Alicia sent another message quickly after. He told them you messed up the numbers. He said you're unreliable. They're eating it up. Camille's throat went dry. Her mind raced back to the email from HR. The lies, the sudden timing. It all made sense now. Jordan had undercut her, poisoning her reputation with the executives, making her look incompetent. And then, while she was locked in this flight, he swooped in to take the deal for himself. The betrayal cut deeper than she imagined it could. She had trusted him. She had shared her strategies, her ideas, even given him credit in meetings to help him. And now he had used every piece of it to destroy her. Her chest tightened, and she pressed a hand against it, struggling to breathe evenly. She could almost picture Jordan in the boardroom, smiling, standing tall in his suit, presenting her slides to the senior executives, men who probably believed every lie he told about her. Camille clenched her jaw, her nails digging into her palm. She felt anger rising like fire, but it was tangled with fear. Without this job, without this deal, how would she provide for Maya? How would she prove to her family that her sacrifices weren't in vain? She wanted to scream, but the plane was silent except for the soft rustle of passengers flipping through magazines or watching movies. She was trapped, forced to swallow her rage. She closed her eyes and thought of Maya's face the way her daughter always asked, "Mom, did you win today?" What would she tell her this time? That she had lost everything because the one person she trusted most had betrayed her? Tears stung her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She couldn't show weakness, not here. Not now. Inside, though, a battle had started. Part of her wanted to curl up, admit defeat, and accept that it was over. The other part, the stronger part, refused. She had fought her whole life to get this far. She wasn't going to let Jordan or anyone else decide her worth. As the plane cut through the sky, Camille gripped the armrest and whispered to herself so quietly no one could hear, "This isn't the end. Not like this." She didn't know how yet, but she knew she would fight back. She had no choice. When the plane finally touched down, Camille's body felt heavy, like she had been carrying stones in her chest the entire flight. She grabbed her bag and rushed off, hoping for some clarity, some way to fix what had happened. As soon as she turned her phone back on, it buzzed with notifications. She typed in her work email, but the login screen froze and rejected her password. She tried again, and again. Nothing. Locked out. Her company had cut her off completely. No warning. No explanation beyond that cold email. She tried calling HR, but no one picked up. She left 3 voicemails before someone finally sent a short text. Your termination stand. Please do not contact this line again. The words felt like a slap in the face. Just like that, she was erased from the place she had given her life to. By the time she drove home, her hands were shaking so badly she could hardly hold the steering wheel. The little apartment she shared with Maya felt quieter than usual, though the smell of pasta sauce drifted from the kitchen. Maya rushed out as soon as she saw her, her eyes shining. Mom, did you win today? She asked eagerly, throwing her arms around Camille's waist. Camille froze, her throat tightened, and for a moment she thought she might cry right there, in her daughter's arms. How could she explain? How could she tell a 10-year-old that everything had been stolen from her, that the future she promised was slipping away? She forced a smile and kissed Maya's forehead. Not yet, sweetheart, she whispered. But I will. Maya looked up at her with pure trust, nodding as if her mother's word was enough. That trust broke Camille's heart even more. Later that evening, her mother stopped by. Rosa had always been blunt, and tonight was no different. She took one look at Camille sitting silently on the couch, laptop closed beside her, and shook her head. You see, Camille, Rosa said, her tone sharp. This is what happens when you put your whole life into a job. I told you to slow down, to balance work and family, but you never listen. You're always chasing something. Camille stared at her mother, anger flickering, but exhaustion won over. I was doing it for Maya, she said quietly. I wanted her to have a better life. And what good is that? Rosa snapped. If you lose yourself in the process? The words stung, partly because they weren't entirely wrong. Camille lowered her head. She had missed birthdays, skipped dinners, worked through holidays. And now, what did she have to show for it? Nothing. Days passed, and the weight of reality pressed down harder. Bills piled on the kitchen counter. The rent reminder slipped under the door. Groceries ate up the little savings she had left. She started checking her bank account twice a day, watching the numbers shrink, fear clawing at her stomach. At night, while Maya slept, Camille opened her laptop and started digging. She couldn't just sit and let everything slip away. She searched through old files she had backed up, emails she had saved. That was when she noticed something odd, small changes in reports she had written, numbers that didn't match. The files she remembered sending had been altered. The more she looked, the clearer it became. Jordan had tampered with her work. He had copied her proposal, then edited data to make it look like she had made errors. He forwarded those mistakes to the executives, using them as proof that she was sloppy and unreliable. The betrayal cut deeper than before. It wasn't just ambition. It was calculated. He had planned this. One night, sitting in the dark living room with papers spread across the table, Camille put her head in her hand. She thought about walking away, about giving up. Maybe she could find another job, something small, something that would pay the bills. Maybe she was foolish to think she belonged in that way. But then she heard soft footsteps. Maya appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes, holding her stuffed bear. Mom, she asked sleepily, are you okay? Camille wiped her eyes quickly and forced a small smile. I'm fine, baby. Go back to bed. Maya walked over and hugged her. You're the strongest person I know, she whispered. Camille's chest tightened. In that moment, she realized she couldn't quit. Not because of pride, not because of the company, but because of Maya. Her daughter believed in her, and that belief was worth more than any job title. She pulled Maya close, kissing the top of her head. Thank you, sweetheart, she said softly. I'm going to fix this. I promise. When Maya went back to bed, Camille looked at the papers again. Her fear hadn't vanished, but something else had started to grow, determination. Jordan thought he had ended her. The company thought they had silenced her. But they were wrong. She had nothing left to lose, and that made her dangerous. Camille spent weeks gathering everything she could. Old drafts, email threads, timestamps, backup files she had saved without thinking. The deeper she went, the more pieces fit together. Jordan hadn't just stolen her proposal. He had carefully erased her from it, twisting facts to make her look careless. He even forged her digital signature on documents that carried wrong numbers, making it seem like she was the one who ruined the deal. She printed everything out and kept copies on a flash drive. She knew this wasn't just about saving her career anymore. It was about truth. She wasn't going to let him get away with it. The chance came one morning when she heard through Alicia that Jordan and the board would be meeting again. Camille walked into the company's glass building, her heart pounding. She wasn't invited. She wasn't even supposed to step foot inside anymore. Security glanced at her nervously, but she walked with such determination that no one stopped her. She pushed open the doors to the boardroom. The executives sat around a long polished table, their suits sharp, their eyes cold. At the head of the table stood Jordan, smooth and confident, presenting slides that Camille herself had built. For a moment, the sight of him almost stole her breath. Camille? Jordan's voice cracked as he saw her. His polished tone slipped for the first time. You don't belong here. But Camille didn't falter. She walked straight to the table and placed a thick folder in front of the executive. Her voice was steady, even though her heart hammered in her chest. "You've been lied to," she said, "and I can prove it." The room went silent. The board members exchanged looks. Camille opened the folder, spreading out copies of emails and original drafts. She pointed to the timestamps, showing how her documents had been altered after she sent them. She pulled out a printed version of her original proposal, highlighting the parts Jordan had stolen word for word. Jordan's face paled, but he tried to recover. "This is nonsense. She's just bitter. She was terminated for incompetence." "Don't lie." Camille cut him off sharply. "You used my work. You forged my name. You told them I made mistakes that weren't mine. And I can prove every single part of it." She plugged in her flash drive, and her own slides appeared on the screen. The same ones Jordan had claimed as his. The boardroom fell quiet again, the weight of the evidence filling the air. For a moment, Camille thought she had won. She thought the truth would finally clear her name. But then, the CEO leaned back in his chair and gave a cold smile. "We know," he said simply. The words hit her like a slap. "What do you mean, you know?" The CEO folded his hand. "Jordan informed us weeks ago of your ambitions. You've always been talented, Camille. Too talented. Too ambitious. We couldn't afford to keep someone like you on the team. You threatened the balance." Camille's stomach turned. "So you let him steal my work? You let him destroy me?" Another executive spoke, his tone calm, almost bored. "We didn't let him. We encouraged him. You were a risk, Camille. Men like Jordan," he glanced at Jordan with approval, "they follow the system. They don't try to change it." Her throat tightened, fury rising inside her. All those years she had given them. All the nights she stayed at the office while her daughter waited for her at home. All the sacrifices, all the loyalty, it had meant nothing. They had always seen her as a threat to contain, not a person to value. Jordan straightened, his confidence returning now that he realized he was protected. "You should have stayed in your place, Camille," he said softly, just loud enough for her to hear. For a moment, her knees threatened to give way. The betrayal wasn't just from him, it was from the entire company. She looked around at their faces, men who had smiled at her, congratulated her, pretended to support her. And now they sat there, watching her break, as if it was nothing. But Camille refused to give them that satisfaction. She straightened her shoulders and lifted her chin. "You think you've crushed me," she said, her voice calm even. "But you haven't. You've just proven what kind of people you are. I don't need this company to define me. And I don't need men like you to validate me. You may have taken my job, but you will never take my worth." She gathered her papers, her hands steady now. Jordan opened his mouth, but she didn't give him the chance to speak. She turned, walked to the door, and didn't look back. Every step felt like fire under her feet, but it was the fire of freedom. She had come into that room thinking she needed to win them over. But walking out, she realized the real. Camille walked out of the glass building with her folder still in her hand. The sun hit her face, and for the first time in weeks, she felt air filling her lungs without weight pressing it back down. She didn't have a job, she didn't have a title, but she had something better, her freedom. The next days were not easy. She had no office to go to, no paycheck to depend on. The bills were still there, waiting for her attention. Fear whispered in her ear every night, telling her she had made a mistake, that maybe she should have begged for her job back, even under Jordan's shadow. But every time those thoughts crept in, she remembered Maya's little arms around her waist, her voice saying, "You're the strongest person I know." That became the fire that kept her moving. Camille sat at her kitchen table, papers spread out just like before, but this time it was different. She wasn't building a future for someone else to steal. She was building something of her own. She took the skills she had spent years sharpening, the connections she had made, and she started calling people directly. Not the big clients the company fought over, but the smaller ones. The ones they ignored, the ones who never got enough attention. At first, the calls were awkward. Some didn't answer. Others said no. But a few listened. A few remembered her name, remembered the respect she had shown them when no one else cared. And slowly, one by one, she began to gain her first clients. She set up her small consultancy from her living room, her laptop balanced between stacks of folders. There were long nights again, but this time the work didn't drain her the same way. She wasn't fighting for someone else's approval. She was building her own ground. Her mother noticed the change. Rosa still had her sharp tongue, but one evening she looked at Camille with softer eyes. "You're different," she said. "I thought losing that job would break you, but you're stronger than I've ever seen you." Camille smiled faintly. "Maybe I needed to lose it to finally find myself." Even her brother, David, who had always accused her of being too ambitious, started to see her in a new light. He visited one afternoon while she was busy with spreadsheets. He leaned against the wall and said, "You know, I never thought you'd pull this off, but you're proving me wrong." For him, that was the closest thing to an apology she would ever get, and it was enough. But the most important change was with Maya. Camille made sure to close her laptop at dinner now, to listen when her daughter told her about her day at school. They cooked together, laughed together, and for the first time in years, Camille felt present. She was no longer chasing someone else's definition of success. She was shaping her own. The consultancy grew slowly, step by step. No shortcuts, no lies, no stolen work. Clients respected her honesty, her hard work, and her courage to stand alone. Some even left Jordan's firm to join her, saying they trusted her more. Each time that happened, Camille felt a quiet victory inside her chest. Not because she beat them, but because she stayed true to herself. One evening, as she tucked Maya into bed, her daughter asked, "Mom, are we really okay now?" Camille smiled, brushing Maya's hair back. "We're more than okay," she said softly. "We're free." And she meant it. The company had tried to erase her, but instead, they pushed her into the life she was meant to have. She had walked away with nothing and built something stronger, something honest. She no longer needed their validation. She had her own voice, her own business, her own peace. True power, Camille realized, wasn't about climbing their ladder. It was about stepping off it and building her own. The night was quiet, the soft hum of the city outside their window fading into the background. Camille sat on the edge of Maya's bed, a book open in her hands. Maya lay under the covers, her eyes heavy but still wide enough to watch her mother's face as she read aloud. The words of the story drifted through the room, gentle and steady, but Camille could feel her daughter's attention slipping. Maya wasn't listening to the book anymore. She was listening to her. When Camille finished the last page and closed the cover, Maya spoke in a small voice. "Mom," she whispered, "are we going to be okay?" Camille felt the question settle in her chest. For so long, that same fear had haunted her, through sleepless nights at the office, through the shock of losing her job, through the storm of betrayal. But looking at her daughter now, she no longer felt that fear. She reached out, brushing a strand of hair from Maya's forehead, and smiled. "We already are," she said softly. Maya's eyes lit up, a small smile curving at her lips. She wrapped her arms around Camille's neck, hugging her tightly before finally letting her go. "I love you, Mom." "I love you too, sweetheart," Camille whispered back. She tucked the blanket around Maya and kissed her forehead. Within minutes, her daughter drifted to sleep, her breathing slow and even. Camille sat there for a moment longer, watching her child rest peacefully. The weight she once carried felt lighter now. She didn't have all the answers. She didn't have the wealth or the perfect career she once thought defined her. But she had something far more powerful: strength, freedom, and love. As she turned off the light and stepped quietly out of the room, she realized the truth she had been chasing for years. She was enough. And that was more than victory. That was peace. Hey besties. Thanks for sticking with Camille's journey of betrayal, strength, and finding true peace. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, drop a comment, and subscribe for more powerful stories. And stay tuned. Next up, her friends invited everyone except her to their girls' trip, so she booked the seat right beside them. See you in the next one. Bye.